Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are on Juz Rabia, the fourth part, which consists of Surah Al Imran. One of the prominent verses here talks about forgiveness of the people. A person within Medina had committed an indecent act with a female corpse, i.e., raped the corpse. And as he stole her shroud and raped her and left her, she spoke and condemned him to the chastisement of Allah. He later on went to the Prophet, and the Prophet asked him to remove himself from his presence. This young man sought forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jibreel came to the Prophet and he said, this verse has been given to you to give to that young man. And the verse states, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفِرُوا لَذُنُوبِهِمْ. And those people who commit gross indecencies or oppress their own souls, after that they seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of their wrongdoings and do not persist on the sins that they commit, then in that case, who other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. And then after that Allah says, these are the people for whom there is forgiveness from their Lord, and for whom there are gardens beneath which flow rivers, abiding therein forever. So this was a sort of a verse that was given to the community and to us at present to say to us to not to lose hope in the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at every point to see the negative things that we are committed as an opportunity to revert to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to make that solemn pledge to Allah and be resolved to not to revert to it, and instead Allah, in its place, Allah will forgive and grant us paradise. There is another verse that says, and strive to the forgiveness of Allah and paradise whose width covers the heavens and the earth. Imam Ali Salamullah Ali was asked that if the paradise of Allah, its width covers the heavens and the earth, then where is hellfire? Imam Ali responded and he said, where is day when it is night? Now this response in itself says that they are coexisting. Heaven and hell coexist by each other, but they are in different dimensions, and we find that in later surahs that the people of hell and heaven having a conversation with each other, despite the fact that one is a lofty place with all the beautiful hills and unending garden, and the other one is a pit. So there is a huge distance physically between the two if we were to look at it in the worldly dimension, and yet in the dimension that they exist relatively, they are so far from each other and yet they are freely interacting. This surah talks extensively about the battle at Uhud. The verse states that Muhammad is a messenger. Before him many messengers have come and gone. What if you were to be killed? Shall you turn away from what you believe to be truthful? What happened was, when there was a shout that Muhammad has been killed, the people of Medina were filled with fear and they ran to Abu Sufyan, the head of the army of the kuffar from Mecca, and they said, we are ready to believe in Lat and Al-Uzza, give us amnesty. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these verses says that I am constantly going to test you in order to reveal for you what is deep within your hearts. And I have yet to know who is a believer and who is not a believer. And do you presume you will go to paradise without being tested? And indeed Allah will test you and take out what is within your hearts and what is within your souls. In this verse Allah says on many occasions that this misfortune that befell you was because of your own doing, because you did not keep guard behind the mountain that you were told to do so. And on the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about their psychology and says to them that victory and defeat are worldly affairs. They are within the dynamics of this world. Today it's for you, the victory, tomorrow it's for somebody else. However, success and failure is other than victory and defeat. Success is you finding God through any event, and failure is you drifting away from God in any event. So victory may lead to failure and a defeat may lead to success. In any case, in this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala consoles the believers and says, look, if you have been afflicted, then your enemies also have been afflicted, but at least you have the assurance of a reward that they don't have. And Allah also says to them, if you are killed or injured, then indeed your reward is on me and you're coming back to me. Isn't that better than being in this world and not being with me? The surah in this particular juz at length discusses the psychology of the Madinian community and how they reformed subsequent to this defeat in Uhud, and they became fine, spirited and righteous people who became God-centric, and instead of fighting for the sake of gaining the world, they instead strived in the way of Allah. So in one of the verses Allah says, but in Badr, when you saw your brethren die and be granted paradise, you said, if only we had died. Allah said, well, I gave you your opportunity in Uhud, but you fled from it. In another part, they said to the Prophet that all good is from Allah, all evil is from you. Allah rebukes them and says, say, all good and all evil, everything is from Allah. In another verse, Allah says, tell them, good is from Allah, evil is from them. And this can only mean that Allah only desires good by giving these opportunities. But the unbefitting, miserable, negative interaction with any situation that causes regress within the soul is an evil that is coming from the individual and not from God. But in terms of all opportunities, whether it's opportunity of happiness and joy apparent worldly, or opportunity of grief and loss, though in the worldly sense, that's all equally from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.